Layla crouched on the wooden floor of her new apartment, surrounded by cardboard boxes bursting with memories, stacked like miniature stages of her life. She had moved across the country to escape familiar streets and familiar heartbreaks, but there were some things you couldn't outrun. Among the clutter, a worn, shoebox-sized container caught her eye. Its edges were taped together with fraying ribbon in faded pink, and her name was scrawled on top in a child's looping handwriting. With trembling fingers, she untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside lay a time capsule, a collection of treasures she and her childhood best friend, Aria, had assembled 10 years ago at a summer sleepover. There was a friendship bracelet braided with her favorite colors, a pressed daisy preserved in a folded napkin, and beneath them, an envelope sealed with a heart-shaped sticker. She picked it up and whispered, "What have we found here?" She peeled open the envelope seal, careful not to tear the fragile paper. Inside, she discovered a handcrafted letter, beginning with a flourish. "Dear future us, by the time you read this, we hope you have followed your dreams." Signed Layla and Aria, age 12. The ink had faded to purple, but the words remained legible. As she unfolded the letter, a photograph fluttered out and landed on the floor. She bent to retrieve it. It was a Polaroid image of her younger self and Aria, arms thrown around a boy grinning between them. She inhaled sharply. Kai. The name had felt distant for years, buried beneath college applications and corporate jobs. Yet here he was, smiling up at 12-year-old Layla. Her heart squeezed as she remembered that summer. The creek that wound around the property, the evening spent roasting marshmallows, the way his laugh had sounded like sunlight dancing on water. She hadn't thought about him until now. Layla sat back, propping the photo against the lid. She read the letter's first lines aloud. "Promise we will never forget this summer. Promise we will always be best friends." A lump formed in her throat. Below that were smaller scripts. "If either of us ever find someone special, we have to promise to be honest. No secrets." Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, snapping her back. A message from Kai, sent earlier that morning. "Drive safe today. Can't wait to see you tonight." Her breath caught. She and Kai had been dating for 2 years, and moving here was supposed to be their fresh start. But how could she move forward when the past was resurrecting itself? She reached for the letter again and unfolded the back, where Aria had scribbled a note in red ink. "Layla, if you ever forget me, remember the promises." Layla's fingers trembled as she traced the letters. A tear slipped down her cheek. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I haven't forgotten you, Aria." Then she pressed the photograph to her chest, as if holding both memories and regrets close. She slid the letter and photo back into the box, but couldn't close the lid. Instead, she left it open on the floor, an invitation to past she thought she left behind. Tomorrow, she would decide what to do. The sun hung low over the glassy surface of Lake Norwood, tinting the water gold as Layla balanced on the edge of the dock. She was 12, like Aria, and both girls wore denim shorts and white tank tops, tied at the waist. They had arrived for break at her grandmother's lake house, an escape from the city's hum. Layla kicked her toes in the cool water. Aria leaned over and whispered, "Do you think he'll notice me?" Layla glanced at her friend, then over her shoulder at the boy sitting on the end of the dock opposite them. His dark hair was tousled by the breeze, and he wore a faded red t-shirt and khaki shorts. Kai had been introduced that morning as a neighbor's cousin, visiting for the week. He smiled when he caught Layla's eye and waved shyly. Aria nudged Layla with her elbow. "He's totally looking at you." Layla shook her head. "He's looking at you," she countered. They giggled when Kai stood and walked toward them. He carried a fishing pole and grinned. "Hey, you two. Mind if I fish with you?" His voice was warm, with a hint of curiosity. They scrambled to make room. Kai sat down carefully, casting his line into the shimmering water. Layla's heart pounded in her ears. Aria nudged her again. Layla cleared her throat. "Sure, fishing's fun." Aria chimed in. "We can teach you our secret knot." She patted the worn twine looped around her fingers. Kai watched her deft fingers and laughed. "You two have been buddies forever, haven't you?" Aria nodded. "Since kindergarten." Layla smiled, tucking a strand of curly hair behind her ear. "We share everything," she added. A silvery fish darted near the dock. Kai cast again, and the line tensed. He reeled in a small base, grinning. Arya cheered, and Layla clapped. Kai held up the fish. First catch. He glanced at Layla and Arya together. Do you ever argue? Arya shook her head. Never. Hardly. Layla tucked her fingers together. We promised always to stick together. Arya peered at Kai. Promise we'll always be friends, even if someone decides to date. No hard feelings. Kai's expression softened. Promise, he said, reaching across to shake their intertwined hands. Layla felt an electric spark at the contact. Over the next week, morning started with canoe rides, while Arya taught Kai how to paddle backward. Afternoons drifted into cold lemonade sipped under the willow tree. Evenings meant roasting marshmallows over the fire pit and sharing childhood stories while the stars blinked awake. Layla watched Arya laugh at Kai's jokes, a melody stronger than the crackling flames. She caught Kai's gaze from time to time, and something stirred in her chest, a fluttering promise that felt like possibility. Beneath them, the board creaked softly whenever the breeze shifted. They felt invincible under the summer sky that day. On the final night, they sat on the dock in silence. Kai held out a pebble shaped like a heart. For you, he said to Layla, meeting her gaze. Arya smiled but didn't speak. Layla accepted the pebble, her fingers brushing Kai's. The world seemed to hold its breath. That night, Layla recorded her first crush, her first pang of longing, into her journal. Neither girl spoke of it aloud. Instead, they carved their initials into the dock board, L+A+K, underlined by a single heart. They laughed as the sawdust drifted into the lake, sealing the moment, a bond and a secret that would echo through their futures. The early morning sunlight streamed through the tall windows of Layla and Kai's apartment, casting a warm glow across the hardwood floors. The city skyline stretched beyond the balcony, a patchwork of glass towers and bustling streets. Layla stood at the kitchen counter, measuring coffee grounds with practiced ease. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of jasmine from the balcony plants Kai had insisted on buying. They were 2 years into their relationship, and the apartment was a comfortable cocoon of their shared life. Kai padded into the kitchen, hair tousled and wearing loose sweatpants. He smiled at Layla and wrapped his arms around her waist. Morning, he murmured, nuzzling her neck. Layla turned in his arms, pressing her cheek against his chest. Morning, she replied softly. Coffee's almost ready. 2 sugars. He chuckled. Black for me, please. But can you add a little cinnamon? Layla reached for the spice rack. You love your cinnamon, she teased, sprinkling just enough. Kai leaned in for a kiss, sweet and familiar. They moved through the kitchen like dancers in a familiar choreography. Layla poured 2 mugs and set them on a tray. Kai grabbed plates and buttered toast. Silence settled between them, comfortable and warm, until Kai glanced at his phone. His brow furrowed as he read a text. Layla noticed. Everything okay? She asked. Kai hesitated. Arya's visiting this weekend, he said finally. Layla froze. The word visit echoed against her ribs. Arya, she repeated, trying to keep her voice steady. Yes, Kai replied softly. We lost touch after college. Things got complicated. Layla nodded slowly, wrapping her hands around the mug's warmth. We were best friends, she said quietly, until life pulled us apart. Kai slid the tray toward her. I want things to be smooth, he said, for you and Arya. Layla forced a smile. Thanks, she managed, but her heart thudded like a warning drum. Later that day, Layla prepared the guest room. She fluffed pillows, smoothed the sheets, and placed fresh towels on the shelf. She opened the closet to make space and discovered a stack of old photo albums on the top shelf, Arya's handwriting on the spines. Memories surged, summer nights, shared secrets, laughter echoing by the lake. She closed the closet door and exhaled, reminding herself that this chapter was hers to write. At noon, Layla met Kai in the living room. He held 2 tickets. I got us passes for the art exhibit, he said. Arya loved galleries. Layla studied his expression. She nodded. That sounds nice. They stepped out into the city's rhythm, Honking cars, street vendors, laughter drifting from cafes. Layla felt a pang of nostalgia mingled with apprehension. Could friendship and love coexist? She closed her eyes, leaning her head on Kai's shoulder as they walked. In the quiet between them, Layla realized that the people we choose to invite into our homes also choose us. She wondered, more than she realized. That evening, as the sun dipped behind concrete giants, Layla gazed at the skyline and whispered, 10 years ago, we never imagined this. Kai squeezed her hand. We're here now, he said. Together. And in that moment, she allowed herself to believe in their story, at least for tonight. The front door clicked open, and Layla stood at the threshold, heart fluttering. Kai was in the living room, reclining on the sofa with his laptop. She smoothed her blouse and stepped back. Aria's here, she called. Kai looked up, eyes lighting with anticipation. Layla crossed the hall and peeked into the guest room, where Aria's suitcase stood half unzipped, clothes neatly folded inside. At the door, Layla inhaled and opened it. Aria. The name felt heavy on her lips. Aria stepped in, looking taller than Layla remembered, her hair gathered in a loose bun, eyes shining like dark pools. She smiled a slow, curious smile. Layla, she replied, voice soft but steady. The two friends stood frozen for a heartbeat, then embraced. Layla felt their friendship pulse between them, the loyal warmth of childhood memories. Kai appeared behind Aria, smiling awkwardly. Hey, Aria, he said, offering his hand. Aria turned, glancing at him, and pressed her hand into his. Their eyes met, and Layla noticed a spark, an echo of laughter from a past decade. She forced herself to step back. Welcome, she said, guiding Aria toward the kitchen. Can I get you something to drink? Aria shook her head. Water is fine. Layla grabbed 2 glasses and started filling them at the sink. From the living room, she heard Kai ask, How was your trip? Aria answered lightly, Smooth. Traffic was kind. She walked past Layla and paused by the window, peering through the sheer curtains at the bustling street below. She ran her fingers over the glass, as if tracing hidden paths. Layla handed her the glass and watched as Aria lifted it. Their eyes locked in the reflection for a moment. Aria's gaze held appreciation, no, something more, longing or regret. Layla swallowed. It's so good to see you, she said, trying to keep her tone bright. Aria set the glass down and turned to Kai. I've missed this place, she said. Living here suits you. Kai beamed. It feels like home now. They settled in the living room. Layla sat on the edge of the coffee table, knees together, and Aria perched on the sofa's arm. Kai occupied the center, cross-legged. Small talk followed. Updates on work, mutual friends, layovers of life. Yet under each word, Layla detected pulses of hidden currents. When Layla mentioned the art exhibit, Aria's eyes sparkled. I remember the gallery we visited at 16, she said. Layla nodded. You took my hand when I was too shy to speak to the artist. Aria's smile lingered. Later, Layla excused herself to refill drinks. She passed the framed photo of her and Aria as children, and paused. In Aria's eyes, she saw unspoken stories, of summer nights by the lake, of shared secrets, of laughter that had bound them. Layla led Aria to the balcony and pointed out the skyline stretching across distant streets, streetlights flickering like fireflies right now. When she exhaled, her lips curved into a bittersweet smile, and Layla sensed that the past had arrived, uninvited but impactful silently. She realized the reunion was more than nostalgic. It was a test of friendship, of love, and of the unseen ties that refused to let them drift apart. The table was set with care. 2 wine glasses, a bottle of Merlot, and a small plate of cheese, crackers, and grapes. Candles flickered, casting warm halos across the polished wood. Layla poured wine into the glasses, the deep red liquid swirling like summer sunset reflections. She raised her glass toward Kai. Tonight's like this, she said softly. Kai smiled and clinked his glass. To new memories. Aria sat across from Layla, observing the scene. She cradled her glass and inhaled the aroma. It's beautiful here, she said, her voice carrying an unspoken depth. Layla nodded. It's cozy. Kai reached for a grape. I thought it might be nice for us all to catch up tonight alone. He looked at Arya. Just 3 old friends. Arya's eyes flicked to Layla. Friends, she echoed, holding Layla's gaze. They talked quietly at first. Kai's work trip to Paris, Layla's new design project at the firm, Arya's freelance photography career. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter. Layla sliced cheese and passed a piece to Arya. You snapped that street musician last winter, right? Layla asked. Arya smiled at that memory. Yes, I posted about it on my blog. Layla realized she hadn't seen the post. I must have missed it. Arya leaned back. You're busy, she said gently. I get it. Layla's chest tightened. She took a sip of wine and stared into its depths. The candlelight danced in the glass. She felt a bubble of uncertainty and set her drink down. I haven't been the best at keeping in touch. Arya nodded. We drifted. The word felt like a tether snapping. Silence settled across the table. The cicadas outside chirped like constellations. Kai broke the hush. I remember when the 3 of us used to climb that old oak tree by the creek. Arya's lips curved. We felt invincible back then. Layla smiled at the memory, but her throat felt parched. She reached for her glass, but Arya's next words stopped her. He was mine first. Arya's voice was calm, almost casual. Layla froze, wine glass halfway to her lips. The world tilted. He was yours. Layla barely whispered. Arya met her gaze steadily. In the letter we wrote, I said that. Layla's heartbeat thundered. You told him you loved him? Arya inhaled. I was 12. I didn't know what love meant. I just wanted him to notice me. Layla's vision blurred. Memories flooded. Moonlit nights at the dock. Arya's laughter next to Kai's voice. She set her glass down and stood. That was 10 years ago. Her voice trembled. Arya's eyes softened. I never wanted to hurt you. Kai reached across and placed a hand on Layla's arm. Layla, I didn't know. Layla pulled away. No, she said, her voice cold. This isn't about you. Arya rose and crossed to Layla. I kept thinking if I never said anything, everything could be simple. Layla turned, facing them both. Simplicity is a lie, she said. You can't rewrite the past by pretending it didn't matter. Arya swallowed. I'm sorry. Layla closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, steadying herself. She opened her eyes and said, Thank you for telling me. The moment stretched. Kai sat eyes wide. Arya's hand hovered midair, uncertain. Layla gathered her glass and walked toward the window. She looked out at the city lights and realized that tonight had shifted the ground beneath her feet. Whatever came next, she knew her heart would no longer be the same. She turned away from them, feeling a fierce clarity burning in her chest. The next morning, Layla woke before dawn, the sky still a deep indigo outside her bedroom window. Kai stirred beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist, but she slipped quietly from beneath the covers. When she passed by the guest room, she glimpsed Arya's silhouette through the crack in the door, backlit by the hallway lamp as she packed a canvas tote. Layla's heart tapped a hesitant rhythm. Why was Arya already preparing to leave? In the kitchen, the coffee maker gurgled as Layla poured a mug. Kai stumbled in, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Can't find the sugar, he mumbled. Layla handed him the jar and paused. Did Arya say when she's heading out? Kai frowned. She mentioned wanting to catch that early train back. Said she has a shoot. He smiled, oblivious. She doesn't want to impose. Layla nodded, but worry settled like a stone in her chest. At work, Layla's mind kept drifting. During a meeting, she rifled through her bag and found the letter and photo tucked at the bottom. Arya had left them in her coat pocket the day before. She pulled out the Polaroid and stared. Arya's arm draped casually over Kai's shoulder, their smiles easy and summer light. Layla's stomach clenched. She slipped the photo into her desk drawer and forced herself to focus on the presentation slides. Later, sorting through project files, Layla discovered an old email thread between Kai and Arya. Subject line: Lake House Memories. She clicked it open and read lines she'd never seen. Arya reminiscing about Kai's laugh, asking if they could revisit that summer. She felt a cold prickle at her spine. Why hadn't Kai ever told her Arya still reached out? The more she read, the more shadows crept behind his easy grin. That evening, Layla confronted him gently in the living room. Why didn't you tell me Arya emailed you photos? Kai looked startled. I thought they were just memories, nothing important. Layla perched on the armchair, voice tight. It feels like secrets have been piling up. Kai exhaled and joined her. I was worried it would upset you. Layla wrapped her arms around herself. It did. Kai took her hand. I'm sorry. I'll be more open. Yet Layla watched the flicker of guilt in his eyes and wondered if honesty was already slipping through her fingers. That night, Layla lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Each breath felt shaky, as if the air around her was charged with possibility and betrayal in equal measure. Shadows of doubt danced behind her closed eyelids, and she wondered how many more hidden memories lay buried in their past. Layla stirred in the guest room doorway, surprised to see Arya holding a pale pink cocktail dress against her chest. The fabric was soft silk, twinkling faintly in the morning light. I wore this at 16, Arya said without turning. Layla's pulse quickened. That was the same dress Layla had chosen for her first date with Kai. Why do you have it? She asked, voice low. Arya glanced up, blue eyes steady. I kept it because I loved it. I thought you might want it back. She set the dress on the bed. Layla felt an odd twist in her gut. I don't need it. Arya's shoulders slumped a little. I found it in my parents' attic. I thought it belonged to you. Layla swallowed, staring at the whispered embroidery on the hem. Summer 15. Back in the living room, Layla examined the dress more closely under brighter light. It bore faint smudges, mud from the creek, a lipstick stain from a midnight laugh over spilled drinks. She traced the stain with her fingertip, remembering that night. Kai had spun her in the moonlight at the lake house, whispering he'd never felt so alive. She found herself surprised by how much she still remembered. When Kai returned from work, Layla confronted him gently. Does Arya always keep these things? She asked, holding up the dress. Kai's eyes flickered. She's sentimental. He paused. I've told her she can't stay long. I should have mentioned it to you. Layla folded the dress, smoothing out creases. It feels like every keepsake between you two has a piece of me missing. Kai closed the distance and placed a hand on her arm. You're the one I love, he said. His tone was earnest, but Layla knelt down, placing the dress on the ottoman. Then help me feel it. That night, Layla placed the dress in a garment bag and brought it to Arya's room. Here, she said softly. Take it with you. Arya stood by the window, suitcase at her feet. She accepted the bag and held Layla's gaze. Thank you. Her voice trembled. Layla offered a small smile. Goodbye, Arya. Arya pulled her into a brief hug, and Layla felt the tip of an iceberg of emotion, loss, nostalgia, and relief. After Arya left, Layla sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty guest room door. The dress, once a symbol of shared summers, now felt like a relic of an unresolved past. Layla realized that letting go of someone's memories could be as complicated as letting go of someone themselves. Sunlight filtered through the blinds as Layla moved between stove and counter. She scrambled eggs, chopped bell peppers, and toasted sourdough. The aromatic steam curled in the kitchen. Arya's absence created a hollowness. She had taken her laughter with her. Layla arranged 3 plates at the table. Kai's usual chef special, Arya's favorite scrambled eggs with peppers, and her own avocado toast. When Kai entered, he paused at the table, confusion in his eyes. I thought Arya had leftovers, he questioned softly. Layla slid a fork onto his plate. She left early. I made breakfast for us. Kai sat down, buttering his toast. He glanced at the empty chair. I should have said goodbye. Layla nodded, holding back unspoken frustration. She said she had urgent work. Kai exhaled. I worry about her. Layla set her hands on the table. Arya worries about me. The silence between them was heavy as they ate. Kai broke it with a laugh about a story from his day. Layla managed a half-smile, but her appetite vanished. After a few bites, she put down her fork. I'm full, she said. Kai looked at her, concern etched on his face. Okay. He finished his eggs alone, and Layla retreated to the living room, curling into the armchair with her untouched plate. Across the room, Kai watched her. "Layla," he began. Layla turned, eyes glistening. "Don't." She stood and cleared their plates. Kai rose to help. "Please talk to me." Layla set the dishes in the sink, back to him. "I just need space." She wiped her hands on a towel. Kai murmured, "I'm sorry," then reached out, but Layla stepped back. The distance between them felt as wide as the miles she'd traveled to start anew. Later, Layla wandered the apartment alone, passing photographs of their adventures, Paris sunsets, weekend hikes, candid street shots he'd taken of her laughing. She touched each frame, as if seeking answers in still images. She realized that breakfast for three had become breakfast for two, and that silence for one was more deafening than any argument. She sat on the sofa, hugging her knees, and wondered how they had drifted so far apart in a relationship meant to bring them together. As the morning wore on, Layla knew she needed to bridge the gap before it became an unhealable chasm. That afternoon, Kai and Layla sat on the balcony, nursing cups of herbal tea. The city hummed below, traffic weaving threads of sound. Layla studied his profile as he scrolled through his phone. "What are you reading?" she asked. He looked up. "Just Arya's latest blog post," he said. His thumb paused on a photo of Arya in sepia tones. Layla's chest tightened. "Blog post," she echoed. Kai set the phone down and faced her. "She's been writing about her travels." Layla folded her arms. "Why didn't you tell me?" Kai shook his head. "It didn't occur to me. I didn't think it mattered." Layla's eyes narrowed. "If it didn't matter, you wouldn't hesitate now." Kai sighed and reached for her hand. Layla yanked it away. "Stop." He withdrew and leaned back, frowning. "You're upset." Layla rose and paced. "I feel like I'm sharing you." She sighed, turning back. "And you still haven't explained why you call me Arya sometimes." Kai's eyes widened. "That was a mistake." Layla pressed her palms together. "Tell me what went through your mind when you said it." Kai's throat bobbed as he swallowed. He wrapped an arm around her and drew her close. "I was thinking of Arya." Layla stiffened. "Why were you thinking of Arya?" Kai hesitated, voice low. Because I've been torn." Layla pushed away. "Torn between who?" Kai struggled. "Between the comfort I have with you and the history I share with her." Layla's breath hitched. She stumbled backward. "That's not fair." Kai's eyes glistened. "I never wanted to hurt you." Layla shook her head. "You did." The word reverberated in the air. Kai exhaled sharply. "I love you," he whispered. Layla closed her eyes, tears slipping. "Love doesn't excuse everything." Kai opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. The slip of her name had opened a wound too deep for apologies. Layla wiped her cheeks and retreated inside. Kai called after her, voice hollow. She ignored him. Behind her, the balcony door clicked shut, leaving Kai alone with the evening sky and the echo of a name that no longer belonged to her. Layla stormed out into the late afternoon drizzle, the sky heavy with thunderheads. Her umbrella snapped inside out the moment she raised it. She laughed bitterly as rain soaked her hair and coat. Each drop felt like a confession, cold, relentless, impossible to ignore. She walked without direction, her boots splashing through puddles on the sidewalk. She passed cafes and bookstores, but stepped into none. Her chest tightened with every memory. Kai's hesitant hand on her arm, Arya's wistful smile, the echo of her own name on Kai's lips. The rain blurred neon signs into abstract smears of color. Layla pressed on, letting the water wash away the tears she refused to cry. After blocks of aimless wandering, she reached the riverfront park. The path glistened under street lamps as she trudged on, the rain soaking her through. She found a bench beneath a tree, its leaves offering little shelter. Layla sank down, holding her arms around herself. The river roared beside her, currents churning like her thoughts. She closed her eyes and let the rain trace lines down her face. Anger and betrayal mingled with sorrow, and for a moment she allowed herself to feel every ache. A flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating the swirling water. In that single pulse, she felt a fierce clarity. She needed truth before she could forgive. Lifting her head, Layla wiped her eyes and rose. She squared her shoulders, resolved. She would return home soaked and shivering, but she would return. She walked back through the rain, each step an act of determination. The storm around her roared, and she welcomed its intensity, knowing that soon the storm within her would calm too. Layla stood in the moonlit bedroom, the wooden floor cool beneath her bare feet. The air smelled faintly of lavender from the sachets Arya had brought, a small reminder of her friend's presence even after she'd gone. She had come home hours ago, soaked from rain, and barely spoke to Kai before retreating here, needing space, needing clarity. Now the apartment was silent, the only sound her own breath. She knelt beside the bed to retrieve the discarded notebook she and Kai had used to share grocery lists and inside jokes. As she lifted it, a folded piece of paper fluttered out and landed at her feet. Confused, she picked it up. The paper was his handwriting. Layla's heart thumped as she unfolded it. The words were simple, but they struck like stones. It was always her. But I chose safety. Her fingertips trembled. She sank onto the edge of the bed and read the note again. The paper was creased, worn at the corners, as if he'd carried it for weeks, maybe months. She closed her eyes and let the words echo. Always her, she whispered. Was he talking about Arya? Could he have meant that since childhood? His heart belonged to Arya, even though he married her? Tears pricked at her eyes. She pressed the note against her chest, feeling the rough grain of the paper through her skin. Memories flooded back. Arya's laugh on the dock, her shoulder against Kai's when she thought Layla wasn't looking. She recalled finding Arya's dress, the secret emails, the slip of her name. Each revelation had peeled away another layer of trust. As she stared at the ceiling, Layla realized the note was more than a confession of feelings. It was a confession of cowardice. Safety, he'd chosen. He'd chosen her, Layla, as the safe, known path, rather than the risk of following his true heart. She felt dizzy. A part of her had always sensed something under the surface, but nothing prepared her for this cold confirmation. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, Kai's name flashing. She ignored it. He could wait. She rose and crossed to the closet, opened the door, and slid on a jacket. She found her boots by the door and laced them up. She rubbed her palms together, steeling herself. She needed air. She needed to think without walls closing in. She slipped out, the corridor lights dim, and descended the stairs. Outside, the night was crisp, wind stirring fallen leaves. She set the note on the hood of her car, staring at the words under the pale street lamp. The note felt like a betrayal, cold ink that had stained their life together. She closed her eyes and exhaled, the air swirling around her. Suddenly, her phone rang, Kai again. She silenced it and opened the note, running her finger along the sentence. It was always her. She whispered, I see. She folded the paper carefully, slid it into her jacket pocket, and got into the car. As she started the engine, she felt a fierce clarity. She would not be the safe choice. Driving through silent streets, Layla knew tomorrow she would confront him. But tonight, she needed to reclaim herself. The note under the bed had changed everything, and she would not let it define her future. Layla stared at her phone in disbelief. Kai's message blinked in an unread thread. Can't wait to tell you about the weekend. I had so much fun with friends. The weekend he spoke of, a getaway he claimed to have enjoyed, had never happened for her. They had argued late Friday. She'd stormed out to clear her head in the rain. Kai had texted goodnight, but no mention of any trip. Why did he pretend she was part of his life when she wasn't even there? Her hand shook as she dialed his number. He answered on the first ring, voice warm. Hey, babe. Working late. Layla took a breath. Where were you this weekend, Kai? His tone cooled. You know I went camping with Trent and Marcus, remember? Layla's brow furrowed. I don't. She bit her lip. I asked you Friday night to stay. You promised. He sighed. I got restless. I needed space. She held the phone tighter. You couldn't call. Text. Kai hesitated. My phone died. Layla fought the urge to laugh bitterly. My umbrella died too, but I still called you. He opened his mouth. She cut him off. Why make me part of your story when I wasn't there? His silence rattled her. Kai's voice emerged, quieter. I thought if you believed I had fun, you'd let me go. Layla closed her eyes. Go. You never let me in. She paced the living room. Outside, streetlights flickered. I wasn't invited on your weekend, Kai. He exhaled. I didn't know how to tell you. You didn't know. Layla echoed. Or you didn't care? Her chest felt tight, words rushing. Our lives aren't parallel lines. You can't pretend they meet when they don't. I deserve more than your half-truths. Kai's voice cracked. I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting us. Layla shook her head. You've been protecting your comfort, not our love. She ended the call and sank onto the sofa, tears blurring her vision. Next morning, Layla sought comfort at a cafe they used to frequent. The barista greeted her by name, sliding a latte across the counter. She cradled the warm cup, its steam rising like hope. She opened her journal, writing. He built a weekend without me, one I never attended. Who else exists only in his words? Her phone buzzed with a text from Arya. Thinking of you. Coffee at noon. Surprise warmed her chest. Layla smiled, typing back. Yes. See you then. She realized this weekend never happened for her, but it prompted a reunion with Arya, the one person who'd never fabricated memories. The weekend that never happened became a turning point, a choice to seek truth, even if it hurt. Arya's cafe table was set by the window, sunlight dancing on the saucers. Layla approached, heart pounding. Arya rose and embraced her. How are you? She whispered. Layla sat, stirring her latte. Awake, she said softly. Arya reached across and held her hand. Tell me. Layla exhaled. I found a note, then a lie about a weekend I never attended. Arya frowned. Kai can be complicated. Layla's voice cracked. He told me. It was always her, meaning you, and I realized he never chose me. Arya's eyes moistened. He admitted it? Layla shook her head. He set it on paper under the bed. I called him, confronted him. He lied again. Arya closed her eyes. I'm so sorry. Layla looked down. But that's not all. She folded her hands. Why didn't you tell me you and he kissed, before he ever asked me out? Arya's breath caught. She glanced away. Because I was ashamed. Layla's heart thudded. I asked him. He said it was nothing. Arya's tears spilled. It was everything to me. She swallowed hard. We kissed 2 weeks before he proposed. Layla inhaled sharply. He proposed. Arya nodded. He told me he thought it was the right thing to do, but I said no. Layla's fingers trembled around her cup. Why didn't you tell me? Tears glinted in Arya's eyes. I was afraid of losing you. She swallowed. I loved him, Layla, I still do. But I hated how I changed around him. I lost myself. Layla stared at the table. You took him from me, she whispered. Arya's hand squeezed hers. No, she said firmly. He chose me first. Then he chose you out of convenience. Layla's breath hitched. Convenience. Arya nodded, tears trailing. He was scared of real love. He found safety in you. Layla felt a surge of hurt and anger. So I was his safe choice. Arya's lip trembled. You deserved better than his fear. Layla exhaled, voice soft. Then why didn't either of you tell me? Arya met her gaze. We both failed you. Silence stretched, the cafe's bustle fading. Layla closed her eyes and exhaled. When she opened them, she spoke quietly. I need time. Arya nodded, standing. I'll be here. She offered a small, sad smile and left. Layla watched her go, chest heavy. Despite betrayal, Arya's honesty sparked something in Layla, a path to clarity. She realized that understanding this painful truth was the first step toward reclaiming her own story. The afternoon sunlight cast long shadows across Layla's living room as she paced the floor. The echoes of Arya's confession still reverberated in her mind. He proposed to you first, she whispered, replaying the words. She sank onto the sofa, wrapping her arms around her knees. If he'd asked Arya to run away, he'd already given his heart to someone else. But Arya had refused. She'd chosen Layla to protect her, or so she claimed. Yet Layla felt like a consolation prize. Her phone buzzed, a missed call from Kai, followed by a text. Please talk to me. I love you. She stared at the message, her pulse racing. A part of her longed for the safety of his voice. Another recoiled from his betrayals. She exhaled, setting the phone aside. She deserved more than fragments of truth. Layla reached for her journal and wrote, "He proposed to her before me. He asked her to leave with him. I was never his choice." She closed the journal and grabbed her coat. She needed air, needed to escape these four walls. She stepped outside and walked to the park where she and Arya had played as children. The swing swayed in the breeze, and the bench where she now sat felt familiar and solitary. Her phone buzzed again, a voicemail from Arya. Layla pressed play. Arya's voice trembled. "I'm sorry this hurts, but you must choose yourself." Layla's eyes filled. "I choose me," she whispered. She walked home, determination growing. She found Kai waiting in the living room, shoulders hunched. "Layla," he said, voice hopeful. She stood firm. "I know everything." Kai's eyes widened. "Please let me explain." She shook her head. "This isn't about explanation." She crossed her arms. "It's about choice." Kai swallowed. "I choose you." Layla's gaze was steady. "You never did. You chose safety. You never chose me." Kai's shoulders slumped. "I'm sorry." Layla turned away. "I need to choose myself now." Kai reached for her, and she let him take her hand for a moment before gently withdrawing. "I need time to breathe free of your shadow." As Kai watched her retreat, Layla felt a surge of relief. She understood now. Some stories weren't hers to share. They were lessons to learn, and she would write her own ending. The morning sun filtered through the curtains as Layla packed her suitcase. Each folded shirt and pair of jeans felt like a statement. "I'm leaving." Kai's suitcase stood open beside hers, still half-packed from their unspoken plan to move together. He had tried to apologize last night, voice trembling in the doorway, but she'd asked for silence. Now, packing was her final act of goodbye. She zipped the suitcase and stood, running her hand over the textured fabric. Memories surfaced, first dates, whispered promises, shared playlists. Each memory felt both precious and poison. She slid on her coat and picked up the suitcase handle. Downstairs, Kai waited in the foyer, eyes red-rimmed. He rose when he saw her, but she stopped at the bottom of the stairs. "Layla," he began. Her throat tightened. "Please," she said softly. "No more words." He exhaled, nodding, voice hoarse. "I understand." She met his gaze. "This isn't forever," Kai said. She offered a sad smile. "I don't know." He stepped forward. "I'll always be here." Layla shook her head. "Not as you were. I need to walk alone." She hugged him briefly, an embrace of gratitude for lessons learned, but devoid of the warmth they once shared. Kai's arms trembled, then he let go. Layla lifted her bag and descended the stairs. As she reached the top, she turned back. He stood in the foyer, still as a statue, and she realized their chapter truly ended here. Outside, the city hummed with life. Layla hailed a cab, climbed in, and watched him recede through the windshield. He stood framed by the doorway, a final silhouette against the morning light. The cab pulled away, and Layla felt her chest expand with possibility. No angry last words, no dramatic confrontation, just a quiet departure that spoke louder than any plea. She opened her phone and typed a message to Arya. "I'm on my way home." Then she deleted it. She realized she didn't need to share every step. This goodbye was hers alone. As the city blurred past, Layla closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. The road ahead was unknown, but for the first time in months, she felt free. She whispered to herself, "Goodbye," without closure, without regret. And for the first time, it was enough. Layla stood on the wooden deck of the lake house, the wind drifting around her like an old friend bearing secrets. The towering pines overhead sighed in the evening calm, their needles whispering against one another as the breeze swept across the glassy water. She closed her eyes, inhaling the earthy scent of cedar and damp earth, and for a moment imagined the air carrying her name on its currents, Layla, and another just beneath it, Arya. The memories they'd buried here as girls rose like mist from the lake, half-seen and hauntingly familiar. She pressed her palm against the rough railing, feeling the grain beneath her fingertips, and let her mind drift through the years. The box of promises they'd buried in the garden, the ribbon-tied letter confessing childhood dreams, the photograph of the three of them laughing in the shallows. Each fragment fluttered in her chest, like a restless bird. But tonight, the wind would not allow her to ignore their names. Layla. Her grandmother's gentle voice called from the cottage doorway. She appeared, arms folded in a sweater too big for her slight frame, hair tucked behind one ear. Despite the decades between them, her grandmother still moved with the same quiet assurance that had steadied a younger Layla through every storm. "I'm fine," Layla lied softly, offering a small smile. "Just thinking." Her grandmother joined her by the railing. "Memory can chain us if we allow it," she said, voice low. "But it can also set us free if we choose to listen." She reached out, brushing a stray strand of hair from Layla's face. "What do you hear, child?" Layla exhaled, eyes tracing the dark outlines of distant hills. "Names," she admitted. "Old names. The ones we whispered here as children." Her grandmother nodded. "This place carries every word you ever spoke." She paused. "What will you do with them now?" Layla swallowed. "I want to remember without being bound." Her grandmother's eyes softened. "Then remember kindly, but do not be its prisoner." As twilight slipped into dusk, Layla retrieved her journal from a tote bag and settled onto the deck floor, legs crossed. She flipped to a blank page and, pen trembling, wrote, "Dear Journal, tonight I stood at the edge of the world and heard my name in the wind. I choose to listen, but not remain silent." She read the words aloud, voice steadying with each syllable. The wind stirred again, rustling pages like a silent applause. She closed the journal and nestled it into her coat pocket, feeling the weight of the past settle into something gentler. Her grandmother squeezed her hand, then retreated into the warmth of the cottage. Layla remained on the deck until the first star appeared, tracing its reflection on the lake. The names Layla, Arya echoed softly in the night air, no longer demands but invitations. When she finally rose, she did so with the quiet determination of someone who had reclaimed her own story. Layla awoke to the faint rustle of leaves and the low hum of cicadas. She stretched, feeling the ache of yesterday's revelations settle into her bones. As she padded into the kitchen, she found a note on the counter in Arya's familiar handwriting. "Be at the dock by noon." Beneath it, a single line. "I owe you more than words." Her pulse quickened. She stared at the envelope, its edges worn as if carried for days. Memories of their argument at the cafe flickered through her mind. Arya's confession, 2 lines scrawled in haste, had cut deeper than Layla expected. Now Arya beckoned her back to the lake's edge, where every secret had taken root. By the time Layla reached the dock, the sun sat high, gilding the water with diamonds. Arya approached from the path, hair damp from morning mist, eyes fixed on Layla with tentative hope. The space between them seemed charged with years of unspoken words. "Arya," Layla said, voice soft. Arya swallowed and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Thank you for coming." Her tone wavered. "I know I hurt you." Layla crossed her arms, the wooden planks cool beneath her boots. "You told me everything at the cafe," she reminded gently. "Why here?" Arya stepped forward, gaze fixed on their intertwined initials carved into the weathered wood. "I needed to stand where we first made those promises. I needed you to see I'm still here, wanted to keep them, with honesty this time." Layla's throat tightened. "I'm listening." Arya inhaled, and the breeze caught her words. "Kai asked me to run away with him the night before he proposed to you." Layla's breath stumbled. Arya nodded. "I could have said yes. It would have been easier for me. But I loved you too much to take that from you. I thought I protected you by stepping back." Layla's gaze faltered on the rippling water. "I thought you abandoned me." Arya's eyes glistened. "I didn't want to lose our friendship," she whispered. "But in wanting to save you, I lost myself, and almost lost you anyway." Lie by lie had fractured Layla's world. Truth now trembled on fragile wings. Layla exhaled, voice low. "I forgive you, but I need time to trust again." Arya's relief was faint, like the first light of dawn. "I'll prove it," she said. Every day. She reached for Layla's hand, brushing calloused fingertips against soft skin. Layla felt the communion of shared history meld with tentative hope. They stood side by side as the wind carried their names once more, but this time as companions rather than shadows. The lake held its breath, witnessing their pact. No more hiding, no more half-truths, only the hard, bright clarity of friendship reborn. Late that afternoon, Layla and Arya walked the shoreline, the soft crunch of pebbles marking each step. Layla's heart still throbbed with the weight of Arya's confession. The sun dipped toward the horizon, turning the water molten gold. Arya paused and faced Layla, eyes earnest. "I haven't told you everything," she said quietly, "about that night." Layla held her breath. "Go on." Arya swallowed. "After the party." Her voice wavered at the memory. "Kai told me he couldn't bear to wait any longer. He offered to leave with me, to start fresh away from everything." Layla's fists clenched. "And you?" Arya nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I said no. I loved you more than him, but I realized I hated who I became with him. Jealous, defensive, insecure. I chose our friendship over his proposal." Layla's chest ached. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Arya's lip quivered. "I was ashamed. I thought if I confessed, you'd think I'd manipulated him. I feared losing you both." She exhaled shakily. "I thought silence would spare your heart. Instead, it shattered mine." Layla's eyes stung. "You protected me," she whispered. "But you hurt me more." Arya closed the gap between them. "I'd endure that hurt 1,000 times if it meant protecting you." Her words trembled with raw devotion. "But I see now honesty is the only protection that matters." A wave lapped at their ankles. Layla watched as the ripple spread. "He asked you to run away," she repeated, voice low. Arya nodded. "He was torn between safety and risk. I chose safety for you. He chose safety in me." Layla stared at the lake, distant and inscrutable. "I feel foolish for wanting more." Arya lifted Layla's chin, her thumb brushing away a tear. "You deserve someone who chooses you every day, without question." Layla's breath hitched. Arya's confession, raw and unvarnished, had become their crucible. It forged something new, a bond tempered by fire. Layla met Arya's gaze. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "I needed the truth, however painful." Arya offered a fragile smile. "Then I'll keep telling it, as many times as it takes." They turned toward the cottage, steps hesitating yet hopeful, ready to face whatever came next. The storm gathered that evening, dark clouds rolling in like restless giants. Layla and Arya sheltered under the cottage's porch, watching lightning sketch silver veins across the sky. The air smelled of ozone and wet earth. Arya shivered. "I should get us inside." Layla shook her head. "Stay." She crossed her arms, letting the wind toy with her hair. "There's more I need to say." She pressed her lips together. "When you turned him down, you told me I deserved better than he could give." Arya nodded, voice firm despite the rising gale. "I did, because I saw how you lit up around him, even when he couldn't meet you halfway. You offered him your whole heart. He only gave half." She exhaled, wind carrying her words. "I wanted you to know you deserved more." Rain spattered around them, and Layla felt tears mingle with droplets on her cheeks. "I was blind," she admitted. "I thought love meant sacrifice, even at the cost of my own worth." Arya reached out and clasped Layla's hand. "Real love never asks you to lose yourself." Thunder rumbled. Layla closed her eyes, recalling every moment she'd bent herself into someone else's story. "I gave him everything," she said softly, "and he treated me as an option." Arya squeezed her hand. "Then it's time to choose you, Layla. To write a new story, one where you're the heroine of your own life." Layla inhaled, the storm's power echoing her resolve. She turned to Arya, voice clear above the wind. "Thank you for reminding me who I am." Arya smiled through the rain. "Always." They stepped into the cottage together, hearts braced for whatever tomorrow might bring, fortified by friendship and the promise of renewal. Lightning split the sky as Layla and Arya crouched by the stone fireplace, damp clothes replaced by thick sweaters. Outside, the storm howled, rain beating against the windows like 1,000 whispered confessions. Inside, the fire crackled and glowed, an ember-bright sanctuary. Layla held a steaming mug of tea, steam curling around her fingers. She stared into the flames, feeling their heat thaw the cold questions that had lodged in her heart. "I never thought I'd feel safe again," she admitted, voice hushed. Arya slid onto the bench beside her. "Safety doesn't come from others. It comes from knowing your own worth." She tapped Layla's mug. "You found it here, even in the storm." Layla exhaled, watching sparks rise then fade. "I've been chasing his approval," she said, "when I should have been grounding myself." Arya nodded. "You were born to stand on your own." She reached for Layla's hand. "And I'll be here to remind you when you forget." A sudden crack of thunder vibrated the walls. The fire flickered, shadows dancing across their faces. Layla looked at Arya, gratitude swelling. "Thank you," she whispered. Arya smiled, eyes shining in the firelight. "Thank you for choosing honesty." They sat in companionable silence as rain pummeled the roof. Each drop felt like a confession of past hurts, of hard truths, and of healing. When the storm finally passed, they stepped outside into the clear, star-bright night. The lake lay calm, reflecting constellations in its glassy surface. Layla inhaled the fresh air and exhaled the weight of every lie she'd ever endured. She turned to Arya. "I'm ready for my next chapter." Arya grinned. "And I can't wait to see it." They walked back toward the lake house, their footsteps soft on the sodden grass. For the first time in years, Layla's path felt clear. The storm had cleansed the past, and the fire had forged her resolve. Ahead lay unknown roads, but she would face them with open eyes, no longer an option, but her own chosen protagonist. Kai's car rolled slowly up the gravel drive, its headlights cutting through the early evening mist like twin lanterns. Layla stood on the porch of the lake house, arms crossed over her chest, the wind tugging at her cardigan. She watched him emerge from the vehicle, each step deliberate as he crossed the lawn. His face held a quiet resolve, eyes focused on hers from across the open expanse. He carried a single duffel bag. When he reached the porch, he paused, inhaling the cedar-scented air. Layla said nothing, neither welcoming nor warding him off. Tonight would be their reckoning. "Kai," she said finally, voice steady but low. He nodded once, and she stepped aside. "Come in." He entered the cottage, setting his bag by the door. The living room felt smaller now, the embers of the previous night's fire long extinguished. Kai looked around, as if reacquainting himself. "It's been a long time," he said, voice thick. Layla met his gaze. "It has." She led him to the kitchen table, where 2 mugs and a carafe of water waited. He sat, wrists folded on the wood. "I'm sorry, Layla," he began. She took the chair opposite him. "I know." He swallowed. "I came because I realized I lost more than you. I lost myself." His words trembled. Layla's breath caught. "Then you know why I left." Kai nodded. "I read your journal." Layla's chest tightened. "Which entry?" Kai brushed his thumb across the wood grain. "The one about safety and fear." He looked up, eyes vulnerable. "I was scared." Layla pressed her palms to the table. "Scared of what, Kai?" He inhaled. "Scared of owning up to the past. To my feelings for Arya. To my mistakes with you." He paused, blinking hard. "But I'm here now because I chose to face it." She leaned back. "You told me you chose me. But you didn't." Her tone was calm, precise. "I need to know you understand that." Kai's voice was soft. "I do. I chose convenience over truth." Layla folded her arms. "Convenience left me broken." He winced. "I'm sorry." Silence settled. Outside, loons called across the water. Layla closed her eyes, recalling her wounds. Kai cleared his throat. "I brought something." He reached into his bag and produced a small, battered journal, Arya's handwriting on the cover. Layla's heart thudded. "She gave this to me." Kai opened it, revealing pages of drawn sketches and heartfelt letters addressed to both Layla and himself. "She wanted you to have it," he said. "And me too, to remind me of honesty." Layla took the journal, with trembling fingers. She flipped to the first page and saw a drawing of the three of them at the lake, carved initials beneath the hand-drawn heart. Tears sprang unbidden. "She trusted us," she whispered. "She trusted me." Kai's voice cracked. She believed in forgiveness. Layla exhaled a shuddering breath. "Do you?" Kai met her eyes, voice unwavering. "I believe in us, but only if we rebuild on truth." Layla's tears spilled. "I don't know if I can rebuild with you." Kai nodded, pain etched on his face. "I understand. I'll wait, if you'll let me." She closed the journal gently. "I need time." Kai rose and set the journal on the table. "Take all the time you need." He crossed to the door. "Thank you for listening." Layla watched him go, the weight of possibility suspended in the hush. Outside, the lake mirrored moonlight and ripples, the promise of change, fragile and luminous. Layla stood at the window, watching Kai's taillights fade into the dusk. The journal lay open on the table, its pages heavy with confessions and artworks. She traced a sketch of Arya's hand, reaching out. Below it, her own response in swift lines, a promise of honesty. The wind carried a faint whisper through the window, as though urging her to decide. She sank onto the sofa, journal in her lap, and reread Arya's final entry. "Choose yourself, Layla. Not for me or Kai, but for the person you want to be." The words resonated. She had spent weeks torn between loyalty, love, and betrayal. Now, all that remained was clarity. No more being an option in someone else's story. A soft knock at the door startled her. Kai's voice followed. "Layla, can we talk?" She set the journal aside and opened the door. He stood framed by moonlight, shoulders hunched, eyes pleading. He held a lantern, its warm glow painting his face in amber. Layla's breath stilled. "What is it?" Kai stepped forward, lowering his voice. "I drove all night. I needed to tell you. This isn't about who you choose." He exhaled, eyes bright. "It's about knowing who chooses you. And I choose you, Layla." Her throat tightened. "You said that before," she said quietly. "But your choices told another story." Kai nodded. "I know. I was weak. I succumbed to fear. But I spent every day since I left, thinking about how to show you I've changed." He placed the lantern on the porch pillar and took both her hands. "I've stopped making choices based on comfort. I chose to confront my past with Arya. I chose honesty over safety." His gaze held hers. "And now I choose to earn your trust, no matter how long it takes." Tears welled in Layla's eyes. She remembered the nights of silence, the mornings of betrayal. "Trust takes time," she whispered. "It's not a gift you give twice." Kai squeezed her hands. "I understand. I'm here for every step." He bowed his head. "Layla, whoever you choose to stand beside, you deserve someone who stands by you steadfastly." She exhaled, closing her eyes. The lantern flickered between them, its light dancing. Layla opened her eyes. "I need to know you believe that, not just say it." Kai lifted his head. "I believe it more than anything." He stepped closer, voice earnest. "I believe in you and us." She studied his face, reading the lines of remorse and resolve. For the first time, she saw not a frightened man, but someone willing to fight. She released a breath. "Then let tomorrow be about actions, not words." Kai nodded reverently. "Yes." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Actions." Layla felt the lantern's warmth seep into her chest, kindling fragile hope. She offered a small, tentative smile. "Good night, Kai." He bowed once more and retreated down the porch steps, lantern light dwindling until only darkness and promise remained. Layla awoke before dawn, sunlight pale through the curtains. The journal lay closed on the table, a silent testament to her journey. She stretched and dressed in jeans and a soft sweater, mind steady with resolve. Today she would leave the lake house, not running away, but stepping forward into the unknown. She found Kai in the kitchen, pouring coffee into two mismatched mugs. He glanced up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Morning," he said softly. His voice carried the weight of unsaid things. Layla offered a small smile. "Morning." She stood beside him at the counter, inhaling the rich aroma. I have something to show you. From her bag, she retrieved a train ticket, crisp and new. She set it on the table, one way, departing in a few hours for the city she'd never fully explored. Kai's brow rose. You're leaving? Layla nodded, pressing her fingers to the ticket. I need to start fresh, on my own terms. His face fell. At first, I thought I'd follow you. She covered his hand. You can't chase me, Kai. Not now. Her gaze was firm. This ticket is for me. A step away from safety nets so I can find my own ground. Kai closed his eyes, exhaling. When he opened them, they shone with tears. And me? Am I part of that journey? Layla's heart ached. She gently withdrew her hand. I don't know. She swallowed past the lump. But I need space to decide. Kai nodded slowly, placing both hands on the ticket. Then this is yours, Layla. My hope is that you'll come back to me. Only if you want to. Tears blurred her vision. She cupped the ticket, voice trembling. Thank you. She walked to the window and gazed at the rippling lake, heart pounding like a train on its tracks. Every memory, every heartbreak, had led to this moment, the promise of a new beginning. Kai remained silent, watching her. After a long pause, he turned and left the kitchen, letting her stand alone with the ticket between her fingers. She folded it carefully and slipped it into her coat pocket. Later, she locked the door behind her, suitcase in hand. Kai stood by the car, arms crossed. He offered a final nod. She approached, heart thundering. Be safe, he said. Layla met his eyes. I will. She slid into the passenger seat, and he nodded again, walking around to the driver's side. As the engine roared to life, Layla exhaled, closing her eyes. The road ahead lay open, winding toward unseen horizons. With the train ticket nestled close, she felt a surge of empowerment. Today marked not abandonment, but liberation, a journey to reclaim herself. And with each mile, Layla felt the echoes of her past growing fainter, giving space for her new song to begin. The train station buzzed with early morning commuters, a symphony of rolling suitcases and distant announcements. Layla sat on a wooden bench, suitcase by her side, the air crisp with anticipation. She clutched her coffee, savoring its warmth against the autumn chill. In her pocket, the train ticket felt like a lifeline to her future. Across the platform stood a man holding a vintage camera. He adjusted its lens, then looked up and caught Layla's eye. Their gazes met for a brief moment, an unspoken acknowledgement of shared journeys. He smiled politely and returned to photographing the station's architecture. Sunlight spilling through glass ceilings, illuminating steel beams. Layla watched him, curiosity blooming. She remembered Aria's advice, open yourself to new possibilities. She gathered her courage and slid off the bench. The man glanced up as she approached. Excuse me, she said softly. I couldn't help noticing your camera. He lowered it and offered a small grin. I'm Alex, he said, voice warm. Just capturing the beauty in everyday places. He gestured to the lens. Like this station. Layla nodded, realizing how long it had been since she truly looked at her surroundings. I'm Layla, she replied. I'm on my way to start over. Alex's eyes lit. A fresh start. He lowered the camera strap. There's something poetic about that. He held out his hand. She hesitated, then shook it. His grip was reassuring. They talked as her train's arrival time drew near. Alex shared stories of traveling the country to photograph old towns. Layla found herself smiling without reservation, intrigued by his genuine interest. She showed him the train ticket in her pocket, and he nodded approvingly. Adventure awaits, he said. Announcements crackled overhead. Train to new city departing on track 3. Layla checked the time. She drew in a steady breath. I should board. Alex extended a hand, as if offering camaraderie. Layla placed her hand in his. Thank you, she said, for stopping me from just waiting. Alex's smile was gentle. Sometimes the right person appears when you least expect it. Layla hoisted her suitcase and turned toward the track. She paused and looked back at him. Alex raised his camera. May I? Layla nodded, and he snapped a single photo. Her facing the platform, train light gleaming behind her, determination etched on her face. She walked down the platform as the train pulled in, each step echoing on the concrete. From the window, she saw Alex standing there, camera lowered, giving her a small wave. Layla returned the wave, heart buoyed by the encounter. As the train doors closed with a soft hiss, she settled into her seat. The city station slipped past the window, and she felt a wave of exhilarating possibility. With Alex's photograph soon to be on her phone, she realized that new chapters often begin with a single unexpected connection, and that sometimes a stranger's kindness can light the way forward. The train hummed steadily, sunlight flickering through the windows in warm patterns across Layla's lap. She stared at Alex's photo on her phone, the captured moment at the platform, her face resolute, suitcase by her side, the station framed like an archway to destiny. She smiled softly, pride mingling with relief. Pulling her journal from her bag, Layla flipped to a blank page and wrote, "I was someone's second once. Never again." She reread the words, letting them settle deep in her heart. The sentence was both promise and manifesto. No longer would she accept half-truths or place her worth in another's hands. She glanced around the train carriage, diverse faces reading newspapers, tapping laptops, gazing dreamily out the window. Each person carried their own story, pain and hope entwined. Layla closed her eyes as fields and towns blurred by. She remembered arriving at the lake house so many days ago, wounded and uncertain. She recalled the betrayal, the tears, the confrontations. Yet tonight, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, she felt healed, not broken, but shaped. Like river stone polished by currents, her edges were smoother, stronger. Her phone buzzed with a message from Aria. "Can't wait to hear about your new beginnings." Layla typed back, "Thank you for everything. I'm ready." She set the phone aside and opened her windowsill. A soft breeze carried the scent of autumn fields into her space, as if welcoming her onward. The train slowed as it neared the city station. Layla stood, gathering her suitcase and tote. Her reflection in the glass was confident, eyes bright, shoulders squared. She boarded the platform and stepped onto the bustling concourse, listening to its rhythm like a heartbeat. The city welcomed her with honks and chatter, neon signs and street vendors, an orchestration of life in motion. She paused at the station's exit, inhaling the rich tapestry of sounds and scents. Roasting coffee, distant horns, laughter carried on the wind. A city of strangers, yet open arms awaited. Layla squared her chin and walked toward the street, each step a declaration of self-reliance. "No more seconds," she whispered, voice strong against the wind. "Never again." With her journal and ticket tucked safely away, and a heart fierce with newfound certainty, Layla stepped into her future. Today she was the protagonist of her life story, no longer a supporting character. The world spread before her, brimming with possibility, and she was ready to write every word. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please like, comment, and share. Also turn on the bell to get more of our videos. See you in the next story.